Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. That's what ChatGPT wrote. Find it very interesting. Um, Hello, my name is Shevy Kaur, and good morning. It's very good to see lovely faces. Some of you came back. You had the courage to came back. I was here last year as well, speaking on the same topic, but different concept, so incident response plan. I work in cyber industry, and you might be thinking, what people and pizza have to do with the cyber side of it. So that's what we're gonna unfold step by step. Before you even ask, there are no pizzas, sorry. I got the feedback, maybe next time, then next time I'm gonna do that. I got 3 questions already. So today we'll discuss about, doesn't matter if you're a technical person, you are not a technical person, you're working in cyber or you're working in any other, I would say, department. Any cyber people in the room? HR? Developers? Oh, wow, awesome. Procurement, legal? Oh, one legal, okay, I would be aware. So we'll talk about our incident response plan playbooks. We plan for everything, but what we don't plan for. Before I start, I think a huge shout out to our sponsors. I think events like this cannot happen without their support. So thank you so much for your contribution for making this happen. Very, very nice introduction written by ChatGPT. You can find about me, what kind of certifications I have done, my different roles, responsibilities on LinkedIn. What cannot you find is absolute coffee lover. I'm always running low on iron. I have to go for iron infusions, but I cannot just quit coffee. I love walks. I'm a nature person. I think love to go for walks anytime or midnight. Any time you can ask me and I would be in. Friends, my absolute binge watch show, I would say that's a stress reliever for me. If I have a bad day, if I'm having, I'm going through an incident, I just go home, I just play the series and my stress level goes down. I don't know how to swim. That's on my bucket list from last 3-4 years. I can still float though, so if you saw me around the pools with my floaties, don't just laugh. I'm a learner. I'll do that one day. Okay, so why did I choose this topic, people, pizza, and panic? What it does have to do with the cybersecurity and incident response, right? So when we are talking about people, I'm going to talk about the stress and the neuroscience behind it. When I'll be talking about pizza, any pizza lovers in the room? Me too, don't hate me. So it's not against pizza session, it's just about nutrition. And panic, I'm talking on behalf of the incident, when cyber incident happens. Now, what is actually incident response plan? I think cyber threats are no news. It's not a matter of if, it's when it happens. And we have our plans. Do you know if your company has any business continuity plans in place or incident response plans? So what it does, it has like a very nice flow chart, nice diagrams, you know what to do. If your systems are down, who's your engineer, who's gonna work to restore those systems back, who's gonna communicate to your clients. So everything put together into nice bases that defines clear roles and responsibilities. It should look like this, right? So you know your next move, you're ready for it because you already have a document and you have already practiced it. Now there are 2 types of organizations. One who do not have a plan, and second, they have a plan but they haven't practiced it, right? So if they haven't practiced it, rather than looking like this, it somehow look like this because you haven't practiced it. It looks very nice on a piece of 30-page document, but when the situation arises, it's totally different panic. I'm going to share a story here. Let's talk about the fire drills, right? So we just had a fire training like last month. And so when we have a fat fire, do we put water to put out the fire? See, I know that as well. So if you ask me the same question 1 month before, I would say, duh, of course no, right? But I did that just 2 weeks back, right? So that's what I'm gonna talk about, having a plan and having a knowledge is a different thing, but when you are in a situation, when you are in a panic, when you are in a rush to respond, it's totally different. All your knowledge, your skill set goes south, right? So real incident, I have been on the call with my friend making dinner, totally forgot about it. I come back like I think after 20, 25 minutes and I can see like my chicken like can have flames. What did I do? Did I do the thing I know about? No, I always have a fire blanket in my kitchen. I didn't even thought about using that. So what I didn't even disconnect the call, right? So I'm on the phone, so I took a pan and I just, what did I do? Under the sink, and I just tap on the water. My husband had to pay for the renovations. I'm serious, I can show you the pictures, right? So that's what I mean. Having a plan is a totally different thing when you're actually in a situation. So let's not do the mistakes I did. I know I look dumb in this situation, but it's real, right? It's real. So the plan is you have all the protocols in place. You know who to ask for the permission to do what. You know what IT will be doing, what HR team will do, what legal has to do, and you have your tabletop exercises as well. It's like fire drills. So you practice. But when you do those fire drills, our brain, our mind already knows that it's safe. It's a controlled environment. It's just for our practice. And you know that in your subconscious, it's just a test. There is no real consequence if you do anything wrong, right? So when you do the fire drills, when you do cyber incident response tabletop exercises, you're relaxed. Your brain is on ease because you know there is no actual consequence is going to happen at the end of the exercise, right? But when the real panic hits, it's a totally different situation. You cannot think of your next move. You cannot think of what you should be doing, right? Now, when a real incident happens, people panic. I have been into one situation where the engineer actually clicked on a link and then he immediately saw, like after a few seconds, a ransomware note on his desktop. But for 10 minutes, he froze. Because he knew he clicked on something and then after a few seconds he saw, and he has the admin privileges, right? And he saw this ransomware note. So he froze for 10 minutes, and who have been into the war room in incident response, every second matters. Every second matters when you are in between running your incident response, right? So he froze for 10 minutes because he just saw like, I will be the one get blamed for this ransomware, right? So he didn't took any action and tried to fix it. So he tried to fix it. He's getting logged out and sessioned out from his apps and systems and SaaS applications, but he didn't tell anyone. He just sat there, right? So the manager comes and he's like, he saw the note and he thought like he's playing some game or something, right? And after 15 minutes, they realize they are under attack. And so it took them 15 minutes to start taking actions. So 15 minutes is big amount of time when you are working in these scenarios. Just imagine yourself in a war. You don't have a time to even lose your eye or focus and concentration for a second, right? I think Optus was, I'm not against Optus again, it was one of the best example when the data breach happened in 2022. Rather than the incident itself, I think their communication was much chaotic, right? Because first they mentioned it was a sophisticated attack, which wasn't the case. It was a very basic, I think, API loophole the threat actors found. So that wasn't the case. So miscommunication. What happens is, in these situations, we rush to communicate, which makes sense. Now, when we are going through this scenario, it's not just IT team. Your legal team, your HR team, your procurement team, your leadership, everyone is under the same umbrella. Everyone is trying to, okay, this happened. Now we have to communicate to our clients. But for the initial 24 to 48 hours, you don't know. You don't know the picture. You haven't even investigated what really happened, what kind of information they already have, or what kind of, if they have made any lateral movement into your network. You don't know those type of information. So you don't want to say something which you cannot walk back, right? So everyone rush into the, if your clients are impacted, everyone is like working on the email to send to the clients, and you want to say a lot of things. You want to promise them like your information will be saved, we are restoring the systems, but you don't know that. You don't know how much recovery time it will take or what kind of information has been leaked. So those initial hours you do not communicate, but it's always a rush in that communication, and that's what Optus did. So before even done, like completing the thorough investigation or knew what really happened, they jumped into the communication side of it. And some customers got their emails even after 5 or 6 days of their announcement. So it was like so many chaotic steps they took. So it wasn't the breach itself that caused their brand and reputation was on stake. It was because how they reacted and how they responded to that situation. Tired mind triggers headline. Now what we have to understand is when we are in this situation, it's not your systems or it's not your servers, it's not your applications who are under attack, it's your people. It's your system engineer, it's your network engineer, it's your HR team, it's your legal team who's gonna recover or take action on this particular item, right? As a leadership, as a manager, as a stakeholder, you should be concentrating on your people side of it, not the systems, because it's a stress, right? So they go into this panic stage. Now everyone is trying to recover from it, or we try to make sure it's not a no blame culture as well. So think any cyber incident, rather than hitting your systems, it hits your people first. So make sure in your incident response plans, you have a strategy, you have human factor, which is covered. If you have a quick look at the stats, 85% of organizations acknowledge cyber burnout as well. And it's pretty common. I have seen a big raise in migraines, headaches, and people are, I would say, tired by the end of the day. They don't have the energy to wake up in the morning. So we can see the burnout already. It's not just in cyber, in any organization, because we have so much screen time. If we are not working, we are on the social media or we are checking our emails on our phones, right? So the burnout is really serious, and that's impacting the productivity and the decision making in those scenarios. If I show you a quick set of examples, we have seen, for example, Yahoo, they were under staff and they had a shortage of staff, not enough resources. So they had left so many doors open. They didn't patch those vulnerabilities and they had to go through the breach. And Target, for example, so many logs they had to go through and they actually missed the real red flag. So burnout is actually real. Having under resources is real deal. Now, in 2021, Ireland's hospital service executives, so they had to go through this major breach, and it took more than 1 year for them to recover because they had 54 public hospitals under them. Now just imagine hospitals. So we are talking about when their systems are down, their machines are down, they don't have any medical records for those patients they can see. It's a matter of life and death. Imagine now in a hospital, you're getting a treatment and your doctor have a pen and paper. So I'm going to take a pause. Just imagine that. Is it reliable? Will you be confident enough? I think I'm going to die of a heart attack, right? So they don't have medical reports. They cannot see the history of that particular patient. They are just giving the treatment based on what they know at the same time. So it left, so not just the technical side of it, it left a huge impact on people's mind. The staff had to go on through like long hours of shifts and the stress they were under because it's not any other industry, it's a medical industry. So one wrong medication or one wrong test can actually lead to a death. And we always, I have gone through so many incident response plan playbooks and tabletop exercises, and we always focus on the process side of it and the technology side of it. So everyone knows if we have to take that server down, who will authorize that call, or if we have to give an announcement or a statement to a media, who's gonna authorize that statement. We have all that process in place. We know about the technology, where our backups are, who's gonna restore that, how many RTOs, RPOs we have in place, right? What we don't think is about people. Now, people are the main key factor in your incident, in any incident, right? Not just cyber incident, in any incident, people are your key factors. So you're protecting not your processes or technology. It should be people-focused plan first. Now, we have gone through that. There are different type of risk, like which I kind of already covered. Let me go to the next one. Okay, so people go through different type of emotional responses in that particular situation. First one is denial. That's not true. And most of the time an incident happens, and once you investigate, you realize that the engineer or the IT admin already saw the log, but he thought it's just a false positive, or it happened last month as well, it wasn't a big deal, so I thought it's nothing, right? So that's a denial, and then you still want to like, nah, it can't be true, and this is not happening. But once you settle in and you realize you cannot access that particular server or your system, or this is not working, you go into that panic stage. After the panic, frustration starts. Now you have tight deadlines. You have to restore your systems because it's impacting your business. So your business cannot have that application down for even 5 minutes. That's going to cost millions and billions of dollars. Now it's down for more than half an hour. So now you got to recover it back. At the same time, you are recovering it back, so you are also investigating. You don't have a threat actor in your environment. At the same time, you have to notify your clients as well. At the same time, you have to update your stakeholders as well, and your board of directors as well, right? So multiple hats one person have to wear. So just imagine the frustration you have in your team, and that in prolonged incidents, they have seen stress and depression after the incident. It's because of the blame factor, or it's long hours and no good rotation of the ship. So once you accept that, you return back to normal. And you return back to normal from technology side. So your servers are back up and running, right? But what about your people? Are they back to normal? So did you ever investigate, or did any organization ever investigate if it has impacted their staff in any way, in their health? Can they sleep well? Can they see any headaches or migraines, or how about their appetite, right? Have you seen that? Have you gone through some? I think we all have gone through some sort of stress and those panicful stages in our lives, and we can see it impacts our life, right? Sometimes it's temporary, sometimes it's like for weeks and months. Our brain. First question, mind versus brain. Is it the same thing or different? Mind and brain, is it the same thing or is it different? It's actually different. I never actually thought about it, and so brain is actually a physical part of it, and mind is actually, it's like a programmer who give instructions to the brain what to do, if it's hot, if you touch a surface, and if I'm moving my hand. So it's like my mind is giving signal to the brain. So it's like totally two different things, and every person has different size of brain as well and structure. And I used to think if you have like a bigger brain, it means you are much smarter, but that wasn't the case. So it's basically the structure of the brain rather than the size itself. So if you have an athletic person, or if you have an engineer and if you have a doctor, so you can see there is a different structure for the brains. And why I'm talking about brain is, so in generic, our brain has this chemical messengers, right, that sends instructions to our brains. And we have at the front, we have prefrontal cortex. So this is like our thinking brain. So this is our decision-making brain. So if I jump from here, I might hurt my ankle. So this is my thinking brain, helping me in decision-making, what could go wrong, what's right, problem-solving brain, right? And when you are stressed, so rather than prefrontal cortex, you can see a big spike in that chemical messengers, and then your back of the brain is like amygdala, and that gets activated. Now, when it gets activated, it goes into that flight or fight mode. Like when people froze, they don't know what to do, so they just froze into the situation, right? So that's our amygdala, because our brain had released so much of neurons and chemical messengers to that. So that brain takes instant decisions rather than thinking. It just thinks it's a matter of life and death. If we go back, I think that was when we were in that era, we were hunting for our food, and we have to constantly look after our environment and survive in that environment. But our brain is still living in that era. I didn't even know that. And sometimes even replying to that particular email, your brain thinks you are in a threat, and it goes into that flight mode or freeze mode, and that causes people stress. And why I'm talking about brain in this matter, because when you are in that situation, when an incident happened, you are working on it, you want to respond to the situation rather than reacting to it. Now, what I did when I was trying to put out the fire with water, I reacted to the situation because I saw something, I got into a panic, and I didn't think about it, so my amygdala took the decision for me, and I react to the situation. Now, what do we want? We want our people to respond to the situation. When you are responding to a situation, you are taking mindful steps, right? Have you heard about mindful breathing? I didn't even know that, so I did go to my GP, and I was like, it's a long other story, but in short, it was like, I'm breathing, of course I'm breathing, that's why I'm alive. But there was like this mindful breathing as well. So you're supposed to take mindful inhale, you take a pause, and then you breathe it out. And they have seen a massive difference in your brain cells and neurons just with one breath. And I was like amazed by that. We don't even realize that. Do you take those That's why I think they call it meditation is mandatory. I used to think I just have to sit quietly, which I cannot do. I think 10,000 thoughts are still going in my head. So it's basically being mindful. So just imagine that one breath can make your brain less stressful, right? So when you're in that panic stage, when you're responding to that particular incident, now you need your prefrontal cortex to make decisions because you're trying to solve this problem, and it gets activated because you are making rapid decisions. You have to take quick actions. You're under the time, right? You have tight deadlines. The anterior cingulate cortex, and that is for error detection, especially if you're watching logs and you're trying to find any discrepancies in that logs. So you find that conflicting information, so that's how you realize where your threat actor is, whether in your environment or not. And hippocampus, so that's for memory formation. So if you had similar kind of incident, or it's like, oh, I realized that happened with that company as well, and that was this threat actor, and that's the steps they took, and maybe let me try that. So you're trying to work with your memory, right? So you need to recall those protocols, past incidents, and technical knowledge, and then your amygdala, which is actually activating when you're in stress and when you go to that panic stage. Now let's go back to pizza. So we have talked about incident response. I'm going to give you a breather. So let's all inhale. Okay, Chevy, back on. So now, why I chose pizza in that talk? So how nutrition plays role in all this story? Most of the time I have seen, if you have been to incident rooms, what is the first food that make to the war room? Pizza? Why is that? Can anyone answer that? Why? Is there a law behind it, or is it what? Convenience, right? So when you're in that situation, you're already stressed, you're in panic, you have rush, you have tight deadlines to work around, and your team is running on empty stomach and caffeine overload, you're setting up more mistakes. Because our cognitive thinking, cognitive thinking is our problem solving and decision making thinking, that gets impacted, and you don't want that. You want effective brain, right? You want quick thinking, but effective thinking. I was researching in this topic, and I found one information, forgot the source of it. Apparently, you need 9 seconds to make a right call. Now that sounds funny. When I said this to my husband, he was like, "You want me to stop for 9 seconds every time I call a decision?" No, but it's like that's what I added to my phishing awareness campaigns. I ask people, if you receive an email, just give it a pause rather than quickly clicking on it, right? So just give it 5 to 9 seconds pause. Okay, why it's a default war room fuel? Because it's easy, it's, as you said, it's convenient, it's budget friendly as well, it's quick. You got a lot of options. You have vegetarian, non-vegetarian, okay, because you're not gonna plan a 5-course meal during an incident for your staff, right? Let's be clear, and you're not gonna have fresh juices in the room. So that's the convenient call. So what we have to realize is, when we are in that situation, we are thinking, so our prefrontal cortex is actually burning glucose faster, right? And when we have energy drinks or like fried foods or junk foods or carbs, again, I'm a pizza lover as well. It's not against pizza, donuts. You see a spike in the energy, right? You see a big spike. You have a Red Bull and you're like, okay, I'm ready to win. You can see a spike, but then that crashes instantly as well. So you can see a sudden spike and sudden crash. We do not want that. So you have seen, I have seen actually a lot of rooms where we have like pizza and the spirits are high, and after an hour everyone is like, okay, what the, like, I'm ready to resign, I can resign, or what, right? So you don't want that. You want that constant energy, right? It's not something you should do. It's backed up by research, it's backed up by scientists, it's backed up by knowledge. So Monash University in 2022, they did this research, and people who are under stress or depression, they can clearly see that impacts their cognitive flexibility, and that's ability to adapt new information. And you need that, because when you are in an incident, every second, every hour, there is a new information coming in, right? And you want to work with that information, and you want that prefrontal cortex working on its own. Okay, caffeine. I love coffee, absolutely, but I think it's a double-edged sword. Taking in a proper manner works for you, but if you have more than that, if you're just like binging on a coffee, it will make your anxiety and stress even worse. Protein and fats. Now, again, when I'm saying don't have pizzas in your war rooms, I'm not asking you to plan a 5-course meal, but rather you can have, what else you can have rather than pizza? Let me ask you. Can you think of any other food replacement, if not pizza? Kebabs? What else? So you can have nuts. Nuts is easy, budget friendly, right? So it's a good option to have trail mix and nuts, bananas. It's very good for your focus and memory. So if you have a banana, you can see an instant improve in your energy and focus, right? So have fruits, nuts. I'm not going to say avocado toast. Steady energy, not sugar crashes. So that's what we want. We do not want energy drinks, and we do not want those candies, lollies, or donuts high on sugar, and then it instantly crashes. Hydration, very, very important. I was once in this room, and they had like glass of water, even filled, pre-filled, right? And so I asked this lady, and she was in the HR, and she was like, it's just convenience, because if they see a glass of water, they're just gonna pick it up and drink, so they don't have to grab a glass and then fill it up from the kitchen. And I was like, it's a very small thought, but it makes an impact, right? So we want hydration. When I'm saying hydration, again, you don't want like those ready-made juices or stuff like that, right? So you gotta balance it with caffeine and hydration side of it, because caffeine make you dehydrated. Do you know that? I used to drink a lot of water, but then I always like dehydrated, and then I realized it was my coffee. Don't ask me if I quit or not. Post-incident recovery nutrition. Now that was very, very important, and that is very, very important for your planning. Okay, incident happened, you recovered, your systems are restored. Now what about your people? Now, we can see a frustration. You can imagine a frustration in a room where different engineers and you have leadership, and you're like, you come here and try to restore this server. You're standing here on my head and asking me to do it within 15 minutes, right? So a lot of frustration hells up. You say things you don't mean to, and after the incident finished, you're on the post-recovery, and you're like, I still remember, Lucky, what did you say to me, right? So people have that uncalled feelings for each other. They were like, I'm like updating my CV. I'm not going to even work here. So in your playbook, plan that post-incident recovery. I have always seen people asking about technical questions, like what went wrong, but they're asking from a technical perspective. They are only asking like if the firewall needed to be reconfigured, or if the servers needed to be tighten up the configurations, right? So they're all questions are about from the technical perspective or from the process perspective, but there is no call about human, or there is no talk about the people, right? What went well from people side of it, or what did not, because it's not just IT under pressure, it's your legal team as well. Now your legal team have to notify this particular regulator, because otherwise your business will get fined. I had one incident one time for this small company, and then they had, of course, this one legal person and was away or on leave or on sick, I don't recall it, but just imagine who called the regulator. Can you imagine that? Because that person knew the protocol, how to notify the regulators. Is it via email, or you have a portal, you log in and form the complaint or whatever, right? But that person is unavailable. So the system admin Googled the regulator contact number and just called, and he was telling them like, we are under breach. And the guy on the other side was like, oh, that's not the protocol. Like, you have to send us an email with a report. And he was like, I don't know, I'm just telling you. So is it like check from our side? So a lot of things can go unplanned, right? You're not a legal expert. You don't know how to notify the regulators or what kind of protocols you have in place. And your procurement side of it, I think HR is always the glue in that environment. I was working with this company in the past, and what they did, so they went through a major incident where it took like more than 3 months to recover. And the people who were involved in that particular incident, so they took them for yoga classes, for group walks, and I think that was a very great initiative. It was a bit at the front. That's the feedback what we get. And after 1 month, because people are like, oh, I'm free half an hour early, I just want to go home and watch my Netflix series. I don't want to go for a walk, right? And I don't want to do yoga, but it was a mandatory pick. You have to pick either yoga or the walk, but you can see the difference. People actually came back with a positive feedback after a month, and I think that was a very impressive call from the HR. Now, does that make sense, the talk? People, pizza, and panic, how it's all integrated together. It's not just cyber industry. It's us. Any incident, any burnout, any kind of stress at work, it's not your servers, it's not your devices, or it's not your machine, it's your people, it's human. And when we are under stressful situations, when we are in panic, our brain needs more focus, our brain needs more energy. So don't be cheap and buy just pizzas, make it nutritional. And actually you in the same budget, you can have much more nutritional meal, and that will not only help your employees, but that will help your company as well, because they're making the right calls, they're making the right decisions. Okay, I got a 5-minute notice. I'm gonna wrap it up. Now, people are the core of every response, not just your tools and devices. Stress impacts performance, that is very true. So HR really needs to build up their game and make sure in any business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan, or incident response plan must have a human factor to it. Support system matters, clear communication, rotating of shifts, make sure people are having enough sleep. Sleep plays very important role in the stress management as well. Nutrition fuels resilience, so you don't want black coffees all around the room. Fill it up with a balanced nutrition. Plan for the human factor, give it an extra day to your employees for the recovery, right? Not just your systems, your people need recovery after the incident as well. Train for reality, not just theory. In theory, we all know what to do. We all have our plans, do we? But execution is totally different. Caring for your team is a security control, and I cannot say that enough. If we are talking from an organizational risk, if we are talking from a cyber risk, people risk or human risk must be added as a critical risk to the organization. Okay, thank you so much, guys. I don't think I have left enough time for the question and answers, but I'll be here. If you have any questions, not just for the pizzas, but any other questions, I'm happy to answer however I can. If I can't, I can come back to you. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Shevy. Please put your hands together.